On January 28, 1995, I was there. It wasn't a matter of if, but a matter of when. A day was going to come when I would walk through the doors of a brand new building sitting in downtown San Jose across the street from the old Cahill train depot that opened in 1935. 525 West Santa Clara Street. The address of the San Jose Arena, or Compaq Center at San Jose, or HP Pavilion at San Jose, or SAP Center at San Jose. Dude, seriously, it's the only building in the world with that name. I understand the city name attached to the Compaq Center name. There was an arena in Houston with the same name before the Rockets and Comets moved out and Joel Osteen took it over. I even understand the city name attached to the HP Pavilion name. Hewlett-Packard bought Compaq in 2002, and it is also the name of one of their computer models. But it's the only building in the world named the SAP Center, not to be confused with the SAP Arena, in Germany. Okay, I'll stop. The San Jose Arena opened in 1993 and would become the home of the San Jose Sharks. For the first 2 seasons, the Sharks had to play at the Cow Palace in Daly City near San Francisco while the construction was in progress. Their new home would help the Sharks become playoff contenders. In their first 2 seasons in the NHL, the Sharks were terrible, but that's just old hat for an expansion team, unless if it's the Vegas Golden Knights. Finishing dead last in 1991-92, 13 points behind the Quebec Nordiques. In the 1992-93 season, the Sharks were historically bad, tied for last place with the expansion Ottawa Senators. The Sharks set a record for most losses in a season with 71. The San Jose Arena era began in 1993 in the same old fashion. New building, new coach, nearly a whole new cast of characters on the team, same old sluggish start. A 9-game winless streak to start the season. They wouldn't win their first game until October 26th. But the team all season would show massive signs of improvement. They would finish the season with 82 points, a 58-point turnaround from the previous season. 82 points was good enough to make the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in franchise history. The Sharks would shock the hockey world by eliminating the top-seeded Detroit Red Wings in the first round behind this Chris Osgood blunder in Game 7.
Osgood backhands but not out. The Sharks in the front.
The Cinderella run would end in the quarterfinals when the Sharks fell to the Toronto Maple Leafs in 7 games. The Sharks making the playoffs took my interest and love of this team to another level. I couldn't wait for the next season where the Sharks could build off the momentum of nearly making the conference finals on their first try. Over the summer, my dad at his work won an amazing raffle prize, 2 seats at any Sharks home game of his choosing for the upcoming 1994-95 season. But this wouldn't be any ordinary seats by the glass or anything like that. It would be in the luxurious penthouse suites. Unfortunately, we would be waiting a while, because my sports watching life hadn't suffered enough with the player strike in Major League Baseball, which resulted in the 1994 World Series being canceled and began the slow demise of the Montreal Expos. On top of that, the NHL would lock out the players at the start of the 1994-95 season, the issue being the league and their owners implementing a salary cap. This would last until the second week of 1995. As a result, the city of San Jose lost an opportunity to host a gathering of the NHL's best and brightest talent as the 1995 All-Star Game was canceled. I guess waiting 2 years for that second chance wasn't all that bad. Sure beats waiting 22 years for the game to come back to the city after 1997. So my sports watching autumn during my senior year in high school was practically barren. No Major League Baseball postseason, no Sharks hockey. I didn't care too much about college football like I do now. Well, the Warriors can look to further build up after making the playoffs in 1994. Look, they started the season winning 7 of their first 8 games. Oh, they took a nosedive around Thanksgiving and never pulled out of it, traded Chris Webber to Washington, Don Nelson got to Steppen, traded Tom Gugliotta a few months after trading Webber for him, missed the playoffs, won the draft lottery, and drafted Joe Smith. You do know that Kevin Garnett was available, right? I'm sure in 20 years or so this team will get out of the dark ages. Despite the lockout going on, I got to meet a couple of Sharks players at the opening of a Costco knockoff wholesaler in my town called the Max Club. Jeff Norton and Bob Airy. Tom Peterson was there too, but I didn't get to meet him. I got autographs from Norton and Airy, and I was a starstruck, socially awkward 17-year-old while doing it. So the only bright spot in my sports life, aside from playing a lot of paper football with some of my friends in my journalism class, was the 49ers. They were looking to get over the hump after having their Super Bowl dreams dashed by the Dallas Cowboys for the second consecutive season. Steve Young was looking to get out of Joe Montana's shadow, even though Young lost to Joe Cool and the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 2 of that season. They added Deion Sanders to the roster for some enhanced shutdown power. After all that, the Niners finished 13-3, made the playoffs, and finally exercised some demons by beating the Cowboys not once, but twice in the same season. The second time, unlike the last two seasons, was in the NFC Championship. The 49ers would return to the Super Bowl, and they would take on an opponent that was out of place, the San Diego Chargers. Many experts were predicting a blowout, and we joked about a kid wearing a Natron Means jersey and saying that he was a walking point spread when the Chargers were 20-point underdogs. Meanwhile, the NHL and NHLPA reached an agreement on January 11, 1995 to end the lockout. Believe me when I say this, in 10 years, it would get worse. It would be a short 48-game season with no interconference games. I guess one of my friends from school who had Sharks season tickets wouldn't be taking me to see the Sharks play the Lightning that year. So on the weekend of Super Bowl 29, I would visit my dad for the weekend. The Sharks opened their abbreviated season with a 5-game homestand. For once, they were off to a good start. Despite getting smoked by the Blues in the season opener, the Sharks started an unbeaten streak with wins against the Maple Leafs and the Winnipeg Jets. This was a contest against the Dallas Stars on a Saturday afternoon while visiting my dad in San Jose. He went ahead and claimed his prize. I would be going to my very first Sharks game. I still remember everything about the swanky penthouse suites the ushers at the arena took us to. My dad and I were the first two in the room. The suite had a sliding glass door, as if I was walking out to a backyard patio area. When the Blue Coats opened the door, the sounds of Def Leppard and the players warming up filled the air. The room had a comfy leather couch and free game programs were strewn all over the coffee table. The seats were like sitting in a CEO's office, made of leather, comfortable, and they spun around. The drinks and food were on whoever bestowed my dad with the suite tickets. This wasn't the first time I watched a sporting event from a suite. A couple of A's games at the old Coliseum skyboxes in the 80s. If memory serves me right, I saw my first Giants game in 1987 from one of the skyboxes at Candlestick. But this setting was the best I would experience. Starting goalie for the Stars was Andy Moog. If Grant Fuhr wasn't between the pipes during the Edmonton Oilers' days of glory in the 1980s, chances were the opposition would have to get something by Andy Moog. Moog played 6 seasons with the Oilers, winning 3 Stanley Cups with, well, you know, this guy. After the 1987 season, Moog would try to establish his own identity in 6 seasons with the Boston Bruins, which included him winning the William Jennings Trophy in 1990, along with getting swept by his former team in the 1990 Stanley Cup Final. After his service with the Bruins was up, Moog would join the Stars in 1993, where he would be the #1 goalie. His NHL career would end in the 1997-98 season with the Montreal Canadiens, most likely after the Stars signed a goalie the Sharks rented for 13 games. Starting between the pipes for the Sharks, Arturs Irbe. This guy here was one of the reasons the Sharks were playoff contenders and giant killers in the first round. Irbe began his career with the Sharks when the team's history started. In 1993-94, he would become the #1 goalie and help the Sharks into the playoffs. After a horrid 95-96 season along with the rest of the team, he would spend a season in Dallas. Coincidentally, he would be Andy Moog's backup. After a season in Vancouver, Irbe would run out his career with the Carolina Hurricanes for 6 seasons, which included him being like Wall again and helping the Hurricanes go to the Stanley Cup Final in 2002. Irbe would be the first of my favorite Sharks players. My first Sharks jersey, I got his number on it. After the Sharks got eliminated by the Leafs in 1994, my mom and I got 2 kittens, and I named the male cat Irbe. Sadly, in 2013, weeks after my daughter was born, Irbe passed away. The cat, not the goalie. Just 69 seconds into the first period,
69 dudes!
Sergei Makarov put the Sharks on the board with his 3rd goal of the season. Fellow Red Army teammate Igor Larionov and Ilya Byakin with the assists. Near the halfway mark of the first, one of the Sharks I met at the Max Club, Bob Arya, would give the Sharks a 2-goal lead. Ulf Dahlin and one of the other Max Club visitors, Tom Peterson, provided the helpers. 17 minutes and change into the first period, the Stars would cut the lead in half with a goal from future Shark Todd Harvey. Mike Kennedy and Sam Gagne's dad assisted. In the second period, not much happened. Just a couple of Stars penalties that didn't amount to anything. The Stars would tie the game about 6 minutes into the third period when Paul Broughton scored his first goal of the season. Darian Hatcher had an assist as well as Paul's older brother, 1980 Olympic gold medalist Neil Broughton. Neil would be traded to the New Jersey Devils later that year and win a Stanley Cup. With less than 2 minutes left in regulation, the Sharks' first entry draft pick ever, Pat Falloon, would break the tie and give the Sharks a 3-2 lead. Another 1991 entry draft pick, Ray Whitney, got the assist, along with a rising rookie who would be traded for the Finnish Flash 6 years later, Jeff Freezeman. And then a 10-minute misconduct penalty was called on Trent Klatt or something. When Falloon lit the lamp, I felt as if there was a spring loaded in the posh leather chair I was sitting in. The Sharks would hold on for the 3-2 win. The great early start would help the Sharks clinch another Stanley Cup playoff spot. They coincidentally would finish in a 7th place tie with the Stars in the Western Conference. Since the first tiebreakers were wins, and the Sharks had 19 to the Stars 17, the Sharks were awarded the 7th seed, meaning the Sharks would play the Calgary Flames, while the Stars were to face an angry Detroit Red Wings team that was hell-bent on getting further than they did in the previous year. While the Stars got obliterated by a Red Wings team on the warpath, the Sharks would pull off another first-round upset.
Here's Makarov to the net. They score!
The Flames went out in 1995 the same way they did in 1994, as a 2 seed, squandering a series lead, losing Game 7 at home in double overtime. The Sharks would meet the Red Wings once again in the quarterfinals, and they would feel Motown's wrath. Not only did the Wings sweep the Sharks out the door, they would outscore the Sharks 24-6 in a revenge clinic. This was my first time at the building on West Santa Clara Street, with all the trips I took there over the past 25 years. All of the hockey games, arena football games, a pair of box lacrosse games, a wrestling pay-per-view, and even a Disney on Ice show I took my daughter to. It sure wouldn't be the last. Oh, and the next day the 49ers won their 5th Super Bowl by beating the tar out of the San Diego Chargers, who clearly didn't belong on the same field with the Niners. Consider Steve Young's Demons exercised on that night. My first Sharks game was in the swankiest room in the building when I was there on January 28th, 1995.